books that were kind of meh. So these are some books that I have rated about 2.25 to 2.75 on the story graph, which you can follow me on in the description down below. So these aren't books that are bad, they're not good books that are like great, they're fine. And you know what? Books are expensive, you know, and when you buy a book, you don't want to read a book that's just fine. So these are some books that maybe if you can get them for free, go to your local library or have a friend who works in publishing and has too many proofs of books, and so that they give them to you for you to read, perhaps. And you can maybe read these books for free, you know, instead of you spending your hard-earned cash on them. So let's get right into it. We are starting off with the Amberglow Candy Store. This book is another Japanese healing fiction book. It follows the exact same formula of there being one location and then many characters basically come and interact with that location, and that helps them solve some sort of issue with their life or kind of understand somewhere where they're going wrong in their life. And it's just, you know, almost formulaic, and there's always like the one character at the location who then, you know, notices something about all of these people, and oftentimes they are supernatural or magical, just like in this version of the story. And frankly, it was fine. I wasn't blown away by it. There are other healing fiction books, even Japanese healing fiction books, that are like really good reads. An example is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's a reason there's like 6 books in that series. They're just very well written, and even though they have the same formula, they do it very, very well and compellingly. Unfortunately, the Amberglow Candy Store just didn't feel like that. I gave it a 2.75. I did bump it up 0.5 of a star because the last story is quite compelling and did bring the rest of them together. But oftentimes, most of the other stories you get, they kind of follow. There is a through line with them in other books that have a similar kind of theme. Again, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, the books always kind of have something that links all the stories together other than the one central character. In this one, less so. I mean, there's one thing where it's like each person that comes to the candy store throughout it kind of gets closer and closer to understanding the fact that it's supernatural, but that wasn't compelling enough for me to be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that will bump it up higher. It's a fine read. I think if you could get this, you know, maybe half price somewhere, or if they have it at your library and you want like a nice, sweet, and like not too like hard read, it's a good pick. You know, if it's a book where it's like, oh, you know, I just want something that's just to get me through, it's fine. I genuinely would say it's a fine pick, but I wouldn't, you know, go out of my way. I think at the moment it's still currently a hardback. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this full price in a hardback, you know what I mean? But honestly, you're better off reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold and having a bunch of other books in that series to pick up if you really want to. This is going to be controversial, but The Alchemist. The Alchemist, I remember selling so many of these when I was working in a bookshop. And genuinely, I didn't know anything about this book. Like, I just saw a bunch of people bought it. It must have had some sort of adaptation or something when I was working in the bookshop about 10 years ago. So many people bought this book. And so I was like, oh, you know what, let me pick it up, let me read it. I got it from my library. It was fine. Like, maybe at the time when it was released, I guess I think it was the 80s it came out. Let me double check. Yeah, it came out in the late 80s. I guess travel was still even more of a luxury than it is now. So, you know, yeah, sure. But I'll be honest. I think it's very, like, beautifully written. I don't think things being beautifully written necessarily means it's, like, amazing prose, but I think it's very, you know, floral isn't the right word, you know, very, like, majestically written, you know, very, like, wow, almost like poetry. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's, like, good prose, or it doesn't mean it's amazing prose. It's good prose, it's not amazing prose. But also, I felt like the story, And look, this might be because I now kind of read books with a Marxian analysis. Marxist analysis? Which one would you say? Let me know in the comments down below. I felt like the story was way too individualistic. I felt like there was some, you know, oh yeah, I met all these people and I was supposed to meet all these people and these people are good, but it didn't go far enough for our protagonist to be really thinking, yes, actually, the reason I'm able to do all of these things is because of the people around me, and why am I in a system that makes it so I need to rely on the charity of others to be able to do this thing. And it just didn't feel like a very it didn't feel introspective enough for our main character. It very much felt like it pushed this very individualistic neoliberal idea of how to lead your life, because often people have taken this fiction book and kind of run with it as kind of a self-help thing from what I've seen. And like, self-help books are already like bull, but taking in a fiction book, and yeah, fine, you can be inspired by fiction. I've watched and read music-based fiction, which made me go off and, you know, get back into playing the piano or learning the mandolin. But like, to make your worldview based off a fiction book you've read is very strange to me. It's like, why is this something you have decided is a good idea for you to do? So it just didn't sit right with me, and it just felt so individualistic. Even though there were people around this character, it still felt very me. And yes, I've read other authors where, you know, it is the character's story, but all the good authors do have the other characters grow and change, and, you know, in a significant way around them, and the character really acknowledges that. I mean, it's a back-to-back weeks where I'm hating on Murakami, but it felt like Murakami's protagonists, where sometimes the characters around them will change, yeah, but there's not really any acknowledgement of that, and they all the characters around them feel like they're simply there to move the protagonist's story forward. And I feel like that's just bad character writing, or at least lazy character writing. You know, I'm reading a Hiromi Kawakami book at the moment, and even though it is almost a very strange generational story, the characters around our protagonists are evolving and growing and changing. I read Honey in the Wound, and all of the characters, that's a debut, all of the characters are evolving, not just to serve our protagonist, but also just for themselves. I don't know. It felt like a very individualistic outlook on life, and I guess that's why it's so popular, because especially in the 80s, that was what was being pushed on us. I'm just going to throw in a non-fiction book because I read it recently, and it is The Five Rings. It is basically a martial artist's almost guide to martial arts, but also like life. It was fine. I didn't really learn much from it because it's very much something of its time. It's not like even The Art of War, where, you know, I don't really think The Art of War is something that you should be using as a way to live your life, but you can kind of get some lessons from that, I suppose, especially if you're like an entrepreneur bro. I suppose you can learn some stuff from it. But this did feel like it was very much for its time. I think if I were a martial artist, maybe I would take out something a little bit more from it. If I was a samurai living in feudal Japan, yeah, I would definitely get something out of it. But for me, just being like an average bloke, not really. Maybe if you're a bit of an otaku, it would be a little bit more. I don't know what that cut off. I ran out of space on my SD card. And the final book, and it's a last minute sub in, I want to say Richard Osman's The Impossible Fortune. Yes, I'll be honest, I maintain almost all of these books, apart from the first one, are very meh. Although I got someone who isn't a reader to read the first one, and they were like, this book was meh. So, I don't know, maybe this is a consensus. But I felt like this fifth book, and I've read all of them, I truly have read all of them, it's I think the most meh, because there are other ones that are worse, I feel like, and Richard Osman's other book, We Solve Murders, I didn't like at all. But this one was like very middle of the road. It wasn't as, outlandish as some of the other books, which I didn't like in the other books. So it was a little bit more pared back, which was nice. But the story just kind of felt like it went. Even though I'd been with these characters for this is the 5th book, I didn't really care very much about them. I felt like, there's been growth in some of them, but I still just felt like, I guess they're old, I suppose. And like, these characters have been through a lot in the 5 books. But I was like, I guess it's fine. There's some stuff that is still very outlandish, which just, like, the first book felt very grounded compared to what came afterwards. And I don't know, I guess, it's the idea where you need to keep increasing the stakes, or, you need to make things still quite out there if you want to keep writing these books. And also, I'm not a frequent reader of kind of crime fiction books, but it still did feel like, it was pared back, but still felt certain aspects like, what is going on here? It was fine. I mean, look, if you're gonna commit to reading all of the Richard Osman books, read it. If you've not read any of the Richard Osman books, you're not gonna read the 5th one anyway. But I read it and I was like, it's fine, I guess. I'm glad I had credits from audiobooks that I had to use to get through this. And I see it now on the shelves, at my local Waterstones, and I'm like, not Waterstones, my local Morrisons. I'm like, I probably wouldn't pay the £5 Morrisons are selling it for. I don't know. I personally feel like the first Thursday Murder Club book was a good book, and then afterwards they've all been meh or less than meh. And this one is very, very middle of the road. Oh God, this is really pissing me off. This one cowlick is pissing me off. So there was some books I thought were just meh. And that doesn't mean you are a bad person if you like these books. They're not bad. I just don't think they're good. I think they're just middle of the road. And look, that doesn't mean you are a bad person for liking these books. You're not like Dum Dum Baby if you like these books. Again, also, opinions on books are a personal thing. My opinion on these books is very personal. Perhaps you really enjoyed Richard Osman's books. Perhaps maybe you think I am missing something there. Like there's a charm of it that maybe just I don't get. Maybe The Alchemist, my reading into it, you don't read into it with that sort of Marxist analysis. And instead, you like it, Although I do feel like there's a little bit of Orientalism in there, but maybe you don't see it like that. So I'm not saying you're a bad person if you like these books. I'm not saying you're stupid if you like these books. It's just personally, I just thought they were fine. They weren't bad. I need to reiterate that these aren't bad books. I have read bad books. I have read bad books recently. These are fine. They're fine. Let me know in the comments down below what books you think are just fine. Let me know if you disagree with me on any of my takes on these books. And, I do want to say, if you do disagree with me, maybe consider becoming a member. Members get access to bonus episodes, bonus videos, book club, movie club, essays coming at some point. You can do that. You can get all of that from as little as £1 a month. We can get some of that from as little as £1 a month. You can do that by hitting the join button down below or on my channel. Thank you for watching. You can pick up these books from the description down below if you want, or just get them, get them from your local library because that is free, and the books are meh, so I would recommend you getting them from your local library. But with that, like, subscribe, share the video with a friend or family member, and hey, I hope you read a great book today.